Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to KAUST and to what I trust will be a wonderful and most rewarding life experience. My name is Omar Knio and I am the Interim Dean of the Computer, Electrical and Mathematical Sciences and Engineering Division, SEMSI. As you may have heard, KAUST was established with the purpose of creating the region's newest house of wisdom that would act as a beacon of learning for young minds, both here in the Kingdom and beyond. Within a year of its foundation being laid, KAUST opened its doors for the first time and welcomed the international research community from far and wide. After a decade of operation, KAUST has evolved to become a world-class institution which attracts the brightest minds in global academia, minds that are intent on solving the most pressing problems faced by humanity today in an environment that promotes cultural diversity and tolerance. As one of the three academic units within KAUST, the SEMSI division's research programs include computer science, electrical and computer engineering, applied mathematics and computational science, and statistics. Led by a team of world-renowned faculty members, our research is at the forefront of these programmatic areas. Each day, SEMSI's researchers develop new technologies that mine data from physical and cyber systems and transform it into information and knowledge that can help many applications in energy, health, and in the environment. Our basic and applied research has become a constant feature in the most selective journals and conferences in the research community. At SEMSI, we also provide learning, training, and knowledge required for our students to start their careers at some of the best academic and industrial institutions worldwide. Each year, the SEMSI division welcomes hundreds of students and researchers from all over the world. Students who have been attracted to our divisions thanks to our international curricula, innovative facilities, and inspirational environments are the key ingredients to take part in the opportunity to perform the curiosity-driven research. For those of you who have already joined the faculty and the staff here in the division, we wish you the best during your time here with us at KAUST. We wish you good health, the best of luck achieving your research goal, and much success in the pursuit of your career ambitions.
Okay, great. Well, you already saw an introductory video. Now starting off the session, my name is Luc Mulling. I'm the moderator of today. And before we go over to the two speakers that we have lined up, I would like to briefly explain to you how this works. So we like to interact with you as much as possible. So we have different ways to do that. You can write your questions at any time through the question box on the right. There you can write them and we will take care of them and handle the questions at the end of the session. Directly also for the people that are watching the recording, you can also write your questions. You can still do that. We can of course not answer them live. However, they will be given to the appropriate person at KAUST and they can come back to you likely by email. What else you see? Also, you see a polling on the right. There's already one poll question to see basically in which program you're interested in. We'd like to know that from you. And throughout the session later on, we will post one or two more polling questions. So you will see that light up and we'd like to hear your feedback. Another way to interact with us is through emoticons, by the way. So at the bottom, you see a little emoticon where you can click on and give us a thumbs up or just to make sure that everything is clear and connected. Exactly. Great. I already see you are participating, so that's good to see. And without further ado, we go over, of course, to the presenters of today. As mentioned, we have two people lined up. First of all, we have Rosemary Mills. She's the student recruitment specialist, and she will start off the session in a second. And also later, you will hear from a student, Dmitry Brianchev, if I say that right, but he will say that correctly later on. And he also presents a little part about his choice and his experience studying at KAUST. So it will be great to hear. And yeah, without further ado, as mentioned, Rosemary, go ahead, and good luck with the session, everybody.
Okay, let's get started. So good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, good evening for some of you, depending where you are in the world. I'm really thrilled that so many of you are able to join us online today. So we're live here. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send it to you after the presentation has ended, so you can use that as a reference point. For the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about KAUST and specifically the SEMC division. And hopefully my colleague, Professor Khaled Salama, will join us at the end of the presentation to talk in a little bit more detail about the research opportunities that we have here at KAUST. So first of all, my name is Rosemary, and I am the student recruitment specialist for the SEMC division. I'm not originally from Saudi Arabia. In fact, like a lot of people that live at KAUST, I'm an expatriate, and I came to Saudi Arabia from the UK, from England, and I've lived here for around 7 years. And I'm a very active person. I enjoy playing golf. I like diving. I like to go out on my bicycle. And one of the things that I really want you to take away from this presentation is that KAUST is a place which is full of opportunities, not just opportunities, of course, scientifically and in terms of your research, but also in terms of a place to live. And it's an enabling place that allows you to live a very enriching life. So I want you to keep that in your mind as we go through the slides. So let me tell you a little bit about KAUST. KAUST was a dream that was born from the late King Abdullah. And many, many years ago, Saudi Arabia was the home of science and technology. In fact, many of our scientific words come from Arabic, algebra, for example. And it was the king's dream to recreate what was called the House of Wisdom. And he wanted KAUST to be a new center of scientific excellence that would serve the local community of the people in Saudi Arabia, but also the region, and more widely speaking, the world. He wanted KAUST to be a center of excellence for the entire world. And KAUST is a very special place, or Saudi Arabia is a special place. We live around 1.5 hours north of Jeddah, which is the main city. And like any major city around the world, you can expect to find really good restaurants there. And it has a historical part, which is very interesting to see, and some interesting points of interest and modern malls, lots of shops and places that you would recognize. And KAUST is very special because it really combines this historical cultural perspective of Saudi Arabia with some really wonderful and amazing research facilities. For example, we have a supercomputer located on the university campus, which our interns and our students, and of course the faculty and researchers can all have access to, which is just one example there. So now I'm going to show you a little video, which should give you a visual about KAUST. One of the things which I think you'll notice about that video, and what I hope it shows you, is that KAUST is really a small city. Of course, it's a university first and foremost, but it is also a small city, and you'll find all of the facilities there that you would expect to find in a small town. So we have, for example, supermarkets on the campus, we have our own golf course, we have recreation facilities. And what's really great at KAUST is that every student that comes to join us is guaranteed student accommodation and housing. And this is normally in a private bedroom in a shared unit of 1 or 2 people, other people. So you're guaranteed accommodation on the university campus, and also this accommodation is free of charge. So I'll explain a little bit about KAUST now. KAUST is an international university, so we have over 100 nationalities represented on the university campus, and we're what's called a merit-based institution. So this means that we look at a number of different factors when we're assessing your suitability to join the university, and we take you based on your merit. So this means we're looking at things like your GPA, we're looking at your transcripts, we're looking at your capabilities to undertake research at a high level. And we don't discriminate based on any other factors other than your whether we're merit-based. At KAUST, we have 3 types of degrees. We are a graduate university, so we only have masters and PhD. We don't do any undergraduate courses at all. In fact, the only undergraduates that we have on the campus are normally internship students who are currently studying in another university and want to come and undertake a research internship with us on the campus. At KAUST, English is the language of instruction, so everybody that you meet who's working in the scientific community will be speaking in English. Although if you are interested in learning Arabic, you can do that. A lot of our international students particularly take an interest in learning the language of Saudi Arabia, which is Arabic. But KAUST is an English-speaking institution. And in order to join us at KAUST, you do need to have a minimum level of English in order to be admitted to the university. But what is really special about KAUST is we have what's called the Kaust Fellowship, and we're a privately funded institution. So this means that all of our admitted students are guaranteed to receive the Kaust Fellowship. You don't have to apply separately for a scholarship in order to fund your studies at KAUST. If you are successful in the admissions process, you will be awarded the fellowship. So every student gets this. And it's a very generous and quite a competitive fellowship. It means that our students receive free tuition, so they don't have to pay any tuition fees for both the master's and also the PhD. And our students are given a stipend, which is basically a living allowance to help support you throughout your studies. This is also true for the master's and for the PhD. There's a range that students are allocated, and this depends on whether you're joining for the master's or the PhD. Once you have passed your what we call the qualifying exams inside the PhD, then you can normally move up to the higher end of this stipend. In terms of our housing, it's free. Like I explained, you will be given a private room in a shared unit. The exception to that is some of our PhD students, master's students are coming with families, and in which case there may be a subsidy that you have to pay in order to have a different type of house, because you wouldn't be living in normal student dorms, as it were. And in terms of our medical and dental coverage, we have, all students are given insurance coverage, and we have on the campus a medical clinic called the KAUST Medical Centre. So if for any reason you did need to see a doctor or a dentist, there is healthcare provided there. And all of our students are given relocation support. Everybody that comes to KAUST, actually, from anywhere in the world, are given the support they need in order to actually arrive life on the university campus. So this means we help you with things like the visa process. We will book your flights for you, and there is an advisor there who you'll be able to talk to about your questions of relocating to KAUST. And one of the newest things that we have at the moment at KAUST is called the Al-Khwarizmi Doctoral Fellowship. And this is a specific call for students from Europe in collaboration with the National Science Foundation. So if you are studying in areas related to science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and this is true for all three of our academic divisions at KAUST, you can apply for the Al-Khwarizmi Fellowship. For 2021, this obviously the deadline has already passed, but we're hoping that this will run again next year. So if you are from Europe and you are looking at these areas, do have a look at the Al-Khwarizmi Doctoral Fellowship, because this has a generous stipend of $38,000 a year. And I believe you're also given some research funding for your research as well on top of your stipend. KAUST is a relatively small university, but it's highly specialised. And this is one of the things which our students absolutely love about being at KAUST. It's really a research community. You'll know your faculty. We have around 180 faculty members at KAUST, and around, well, nearly 500 postdocs, and a lot of research scientists and support staff as well. So when you're around the campus, you will bump into people that you know, and it's likely that you'll become very familiar, certainly with your faculty advisor, but also other faculty that are either in the program and perhaps also within the division. So we have a community of around 7,000, and it's a very, very safe and a very enriching place to live because, as I said, it's this community of scientists that are living and working in one location. And although we are small, we're doing very, very well. We're punching well above our weight in terms of the number of citations per faculty and in terms of our research output, the quality of our research output. So, for example, we're #1 in the world for the citations per faculty, and we have won this 5 years in a row, including 2020. And although we're small, we're working with many, many collaborators around the world. And the second thing that I really want you to take away from this presentation is that although KAUST is located in Saudi Arabia, we have a network which really spans the entire globe. So you will get to know or perhaps have opportunities to work with different industry partners or different research collaborators in many, many parts of the world. For example, we have lots of joint research papers and joint collaborations in America, in Europe, in Asia, and of course in the Middle East as well. And I've already been over a little bit about our students, because the majority of our students are PhD. Around 80% of the students that join KAUST are joining for high-level research and are committed to 3 or 4 years of research that they're going to undertake. But what I think is really interesting about this slide is that around 35% of our student population are female. And this is really special because, as we know in science and technology, this is normally a male-dominated area. So KAUST are doing really well in the gender balance and attracting females to come and study high-level science and technology in the university. You don't need to be Muslim in order to study here. That is a question that we sometimes get asked. Contrary to what you might hear, especially when you're at KAUST, you don't have to wear the headscarf. I drive, I'm allowed to have my family and friends visit me. So it is an international university. We've graduated around 1,500 students now, and a lot of our PhD students will go on to work in some amazing industries, some really famous industries, places like Saudi Aramco, Google, Facebook. But for a lot of our MS graduates that don't stay at KAUST, so I should say that the majority of our master's students do actually want to stay and continue their PhD with us. But if they don't, they do go on to other top universities around the world, places like EPFL, Stanford, University of Oxford and Cambridge. So around 30% of our graduates stay in academia, not just as PhD students if they're completing their masters, but also as postdocs or junior professors in institutions as well. We are still a young university. We're just in our 11th year. So this is some really fantastic statistics for just a young and a relatively specialized university. But I would say that the majority of our alumni go on to work in industry after they've graduated. As I mentioned earlier, KAUST is a graduate-only university. So we have 3 types of degrees: the master's degree, the PhD, and then what's called the MS PhD, which I'll explain a little bit about in just a moment. So for the master's degree, in order to apply for this, you would need to have a bachelor degree. If you already have a master's degree, you should be looking to apply for the PhD. We don't really accept students onto the masters if they already have a master's degree. And the way that the academic year works at KAUST is we have 2 intakes. So ordinarily, most of our students will come in the fall semester, which really begins around August until December. And then the spring semester, which starts in January until May. Now, for master's applicants, you would be looking at the fall intake. And for PhD applicants, you have the choice of joining either in the fall or also in the spring. So for the master's degree, it would normally take you around 3 semesters and 2 sessions in order to complete the master's degree. And for the PhD, it normally takes around 3 years. And for the MS PhD, this is for students who are coming from a bachelor degree, but they know already that they want to get straight into their research. They can complete the MS PhD, and ordinarily, they're awarded the MS on the way to completing their PhD. It does make the program slightly longer, of around 4 to 5 years, but I would say that the majority of our international applicants that are coming directly from their bachelor degree will apply for the MS PhD. So at KAUST, we have 3 academic divisions. The BESI division, which is looking at things like bioscience and bioengineering. And if anybody wants to find out more about the other 2 divisions, I can, at the end, put you in touch with our contacts there. The physical sciences and engineering division is looking at things like mechanical engineering, earth science, chemical science, applied physics. And within the SEMSI division, which is the division that we're here to talk about, we are looking at things like applied mathematics and computational science, computer science, electrical and computer engineering, and statistics. And I'm going to explain a little bit about each of those programs in just a moment. So first of all, KAUST has a number of research centres. And at SEMSI, I would say there are 3 main or 3 specialised research centres that we are particularly affiliated with. And the first one is the ECRC, which is the Extreme Computing Research Centre. And this is looking at things like computational simulations, which can be used in obviously all types of scientific discovery. Specifically, we look at things like climate modelling or big data. And yeah, we have the KAUST supercomputer, which we call Shaheen, which is one of the top ranked supercomputers in the world. The organizational research centres, the idea of these is really to drive research to new frontiers. And the way that we're doing that is bringing together, or collectively bringing together, great minds of people from lots of different disciplines. So within, for example, the CBRC, which is the Computational Biology Research Centre, we may have experts in biology and computer science, and also a lot of faculty that are really working in in a way, in a multidisciplinary way, where perhaps they have a background in both biology and computer science, and they can do some very interesting things, like they've been looking at decoding the human genome in order to identify predisposition to disease, which is obviously some very interesting work there. And then within the VCC, which is the Visual Computing Research Centre, a lot of our faculty are working on developing, well, I mean, visual computing is an enabling device that allows for a range of applications that can be used for example, unmanned vehicles. It can be used in entertainment, in medicine. Most recently, the VCC has appeared in a lot of the news because they were able to do some nano visualizations of the COVID-19 virus. So if you have a look on our website, you'll be able to find some really interesting information about that as well. So as well as the research centres, we also have what are called the core labs. And the idea of these is to deliver research support and training to the faculty, but also to students and also our partners around the world. And there are around 10 core labs, but I would say the most interesting ones are the Nano Fabrication lab, the core workshops, the supercomputing core lab, and the visualization core lab. And the supercomputer and the visualization ones, we've covered a little bit about that, but within Nano Fabrication, this core lab is really looking at the fabrication and the characterization of nanomaterials and nanoscale devices. So you can do things like etching and lithography. You can work on thin films, all of those within the Nano Fabrication core lab. And within the workshops, again, we specialize in all sorts of development, things to do with 3D printing, glass blowing. They do things with electronics and woodworking and metrology as well. So hopefully you're beginning to build a picture in your mind of all the opportunities that KAUST has available in terms of the science and the practical side of technology development as well. So let's get into a little bit more detail about the SEMC division specifically, what we're here to talk about. Within SEMC, which is one of the 3 divisions at KAUST, we have around 380 students in the whole division and just over 60 core members. It's really difficult for us to go into a lot of detail about each of the research areas of those faculty. So I'm going to try in a moment just to give you an overview. But within AMCS, we're looking at things like, stochastic numerics, we have partial differential equations, and within CS, we're looking at things like AI, visual computing. Within EE, it's integrated circuits and power systems, lots of different areas. And within statistics, we're looking at obviously big data, Bayesian statistics, and time series analysis. I haven't gone into every area because the next slides, I'm going to show you specifically or more generally about what our faculty are actually working in. So within AMCS, we have faculty who are working in numerical analysis and scientific computing. So a lot of these faculty will be working on the supercomputer at KAUST. And one of the things, as I go through these slides, I think you'll begin to understand is that most of our faculty have either studied in the US or Europe, or they were teaching in the US or Europe before they came to KAUST. So when I come on to explain about the admissions requirements, I'll explain why this is an interesting point to make. So numerical analysis and scientific computing, we have faculty working in partial differential equations, applied probability and uncertainty quantification, applied geometry, mathematical modeling. And within CS, which is one of our larger departments at KAUST, we have a whole group of faculty who are dedicated to high performance computing. So Professor Mutaz Al-Mazahi, who is our previous dean of the university, I should say now Omar Neo is the current dean of the SEMC division. We have computational bioscience, and our newest program, or our newest research area, which is cybersecurity, which is obviously a hugely growing area in computer science at the moment. We also have faculty working on visual computing and image processing, quite a lot of faculty working in this particular area, in fact. And Wolfgang is the Centre Director for the Visual Computing Research Centre, the VCC. These are our faculty who are working in machine learning and AI, including Lawrence Sorin, who is the Provost at KAUST. And we have people who are working in computer networks, cloud computing, big data, computer systems and databases. And then within the statistics program, we have people in spatial temporal statistics, time series analysis, biostatistics, computational statistics, stochastic processes, and statistics of extremes as well, and also Bayesian statistics. So this is just an overview of all of these areas within with the faculties listed there. So just to give you a quick summary of the AMCS program, that's the Applied Mathematics and Computational Science program. And this is the overview of the CS areas. And this is the overview of the ECE areas. And what I'll do is I'll share this presentation with you so that you can have this summary and have these details here, so you can look into the faculty in more detail and see what kind of research they're doing. So within ECE, I'm sorry I didn't explain the specific areas, but we have people working in electromagnetism and photonics, device and circuits, communications and networking, power systems, control systems, robotics, and computer vision as well. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the admissions requirements in just a moment. But the reason I've given you an overview of these research areas that our faculty are working in is just to give you a picture about the kind of research that you can do at KAUST. It's by no means an exhaustive list, and in fact a lot of our faculty at KAUST will be working in more than one area. So what I would always advise you to do is to go onto our website and look at the kind of topics and papers that our faculty have written or are working on, so that you can really get an idea of how our faculty are doing. So in terms of the admissions requirements at KAUST, in order to apply, you do need to have either a bachelor's degree and or a master's degree. And this has to be in a relevant field of study. And I really want to emphasize this, because in some cases we have had people applying who have a background in business studies, and actually they're applying for a degree in computer science or a PhD in computer science. It's really important that you do have a background in what it is that you're looking to do your graduate studies in, because at KAUST, it is high-level research. We are a research institution, and in order for you to cope with the level of the work that's going to be required of you, you need to have a really good foundation in those areas. So in some cases, there are programs that you can study in your bachelor or your master's, which are closely affiliated with our graduate degrees. So for example, if you have a background in physics or mechanical engineering, and you are looking at things like electrical and computer engineering or photonics, then you may find that that background is suitable in order to pursue your master's or your PhD at KAUST. But generally, if you're applying for computer science, you should have a background in computer science. You also, when you apply, you need to provide a statement of purpose in a CV. The statement of purpose should outline your motivations for wanting to study the course, why you're interested in this program. And the CV, at this point, I hope you all know what a CV is, but it should just be a summary of your background. And I would advise that not to be more than 2 pages long. Sometimes we do have CVs that are 8 or 9 pages, and it's just too much. It should just be a summary about your education, what you've studied, and the key highlights of you and the kind of work that you've done. When you submit the application, you'll be asked to supply university transcripts from all of the universities or the institutions that you've attended. So this means if you have studied a bachelor degree, and a master's degree, you need to supply the transcripts for both of those institutions. And those transcripts should also be in English, and they will have to be formally translated if they're not already in English. This is really just a guideline of the GPA. I don't want anybody here to fixate or think too much about the GPA. When you're asked to submit the application, you will give the original grades. So if you're studying, for example, in an IIT in India, you need to provide the percentage grade, whether it's 90% or 80%. Or if you're studying in the UK, you just need to say if it's a first class degree or a 2-1, you don't need to worry about GPA. We work on GPA, we do the conversions, and this is just an indication of the kind of students that we're looking for. The minimum GPA, or the average, I should say, is normally 3.5 and above on a 4.0 scale. So if you are in the US or you're working on a GPA scale, it's probably going to make a bit more sense to you. In terms of the English language requirements, every student that's admitted to KAUST has to have some proof of their English language skills. Now, this can either be if you're a native speaker from and you have studied in places like Australia, New Zealand, England, the UK, or North America, then you'll be exempt from having to provide a TOEFL or an IELTS score. But if you have not studied in one of those countries for your previous or for an institution that's located in those places, then you do need to provide proof of your English. I believe that because of the pandemic recently, they have started accepting the online versions of, I think, Duolingo as well, but we can clarify that with the admissions office by email if you want to check exactly which qualification they will accept. I want to talk a little bit about recommendations. It's something which I see going wrong a lot, or I saw going wrong a lot when I was working in admissions. In terms of your recommendations letters, you should really be very careful about who you choose or who you select to write that. Sometimes we see recommendation letters from people's siblings or a relative, and this isn't really appropriate. You should try and find somebody who can comment on your ability to undertake higher level research. So perhaps you have a thesis supervisor of somebody that you did your master's with or your bachelor degree, or perhaps there's a specific module that you studied where the faculty got to know you and wants to write you a recommendation there. Earlier, I talked about the background of the faculty, and I explained that a lot of them have studied in the US or Europe, or perhaps they were teaching there before they came. And this is relevant because the GRE is the graduate record exam, which is very familiar to our faculty. It's not compulsory to submit the results of this. You don't have to sit this exam, but if you have sat the exam because you are applying to other institutions in the US specifically, then it's strongly recommended that you provide those results to us as well. And if you have some research experience, you should include that. For example, if you've done an internship in one of the national labs, or perhaps you've done an internship at KAUST or somewhere else, and this is that kind of research experience, you should include that as well. Now, if you're applying for a PhD or the MS PhD, you do need to have a supervising professor at KAUST. So there are two ways that you can approach this. The first is that perhaps you have already had some interaction with a faculty member here. Maybe you've done an internship with us, or maybe you've met a faculty member at a particular conference, or you've read a lot of their work and you know exactly who you want to work with. And perhaps you have reached out to them and they've already given their approval that they want to accept you into their lab. In which case, you just write their name inside the application form. The other way that you can approach it is to research the faculty on our website, see which kind of areas they're working in, and then you can write down the names of up to 3 faculty members that you may wish to work with on your PhD. And when the application is complete, that application will be forwarded to the relevant faculty in order for them to assess whether or not they think you would be a good fit for their lab. And I want to also emphasize that KAUST is an interview-based, we have interview-based admissions. So as well as all of the paper review that we do, we are also going to give you 2 interviews. The first interview is the academic interview, which is normally conducted by our faculty at KAUST, and they want to check that you, you really do have the understanding in order to compete for a position at KAUST. And the other interview that we have is what's called the personal interview, or the KAUST interview, and this is really about your suitability for living and working within the KAUST environment. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our students do come for internships. We have a lot of visiting opportunities that are available for our students. We have remote internships, which can be conducted remotely from wherever you're living. And we also have on-campus opportunities. Now, because of the pandemic, a lot of our on-campus opportunities were put on hold, but we hope that soon we're going to be able to reopen those and have people joining us on the campus again. And just an example of some of the internships that we have on campus are things like the photonics summer camp, which happens normally in the summer, and also the microelectronics camp, which is ordinarily taking place around December and January, but sometimes we are considering hosting it in the summer as well. And these are normally workshops that last around 4 weeks, but we also have kind of longer term internships, things like the research internships, which is the Vsrp. And I'll explain a little bit about that in just a moment. And we also have sort of shorter visits where you can come just perhaps for, to view the campus. This is explained in a bit more detail later. Or if you want some more information on that, then I can explain about that. I should say that around 30 to 40% of our students that come to KAUST have visited or been engaged in KAUST before being admitted as students. If there are any Saudi students online, we also have a specific Saudi summer internship program, which is now in its 8th year, and it lasts from between 8 to 12 weeks. And this will give you an opportunity to learn about some of the topics of research in the SEMSI division, and also give you the chance to undertake some higher level research and get some experience that will help you hopefully decide whether you want to pursue a career in academia. And we accept about 40 interns onto that program every year. So one of the most prestigious internship programs that are on offer is the Vsrp, and this program is an internship program for students from around the world. Here you can see the top countries of the students that we take onto the Vsrp. In order to be eligible for this, you should be a current student, either in your 3rd year of your bachelor's degree, or your penultimate year, I should say, or you should be a master's student. And the internships are for between 3 to 6 months. The applications are accepted all year round, so you don't need to apply by a specific date. You can just go onto the Vsrp website. You can see a list of the available projects, and you can apply directly to those. And if you're eligible, then you have some very generous benefits, including a monthly living allowance, access to our core labs and our facilities, also free housing and relocation support as well. So please go on to the SEMSI, the Vsrp website. I'll give you a link to that at the end of the presentation, and you can see what kind of projects are available there. Again, we also have the virtual remote internship program, and this is slightly different. If you were interested in joining us as a remote intern, which means that you don't physically come to KAUST in order to do the internship, I would advise you to send an email to the SEMSI Internships at KAUST. The email will appear in just a moment. I'll give you the address, don't worry. And you can contact us and we can explain the process for that. The difference between the remote internship and the Vsrp is that with the Vsrp, you have a specific project that you apply to online. And within the remote internship program, it's really a discussion between you and the faculty to see whether or not the project that you're going to work on is conducive to a remote environment. Can you actually complete this internship without being physically present on the university campus? So not all of our internships that are available on campus are available remotely. There is a difference between those. So here is the final bit of the information that I want you to take. You can take a picture of this if you want to. These are the most important email addresses that you'll find. I can be contacted on the SEMC Recruitment at KAUST email address. My colleague Michelle can be contacted on the SEMC Internships one, and we'll be happy to advise you and help you with any of the questions that you have. And these are the three main websites that I want to highlight. Obviously, the SEMC website. Here is where you're going to find all the information about the faculty, the research areas, what people are working in. The admissions website, which will highlight and tell you how to apply. I should say that it's free to submit an application. It doesn't cost you anything. So just make sure that you do your research, that you apply in plenty of time. And then the Vsrp website, which will give you a lot of really useful information about some of the exciting research projects that you can join as an intern.
So before we move on to the Q&A, I would just like to introduce Dmitry Bryanchev, who is a student of ours in the Electrical and Computer Engineering program. Dmitry, are you with us there? Yeah, hi. So Dmitry is going to say a few words to you about what it's like to be a student. And of course, at the end, we'll do a Q&A. So you can ask your questions to either of us directly through the questions tab. Okay, over to you, Dmitry.
Thank you, Rosemary. Let me share my screen so I can present like this. Is everything fine? Do you hear me? All good?
Yep, all good.
Okay. So hello, everyone. Again, my name is Dmitry Bryanchev. I'm an EC PhD student at KAUST, and I'm a student ambassador for SIMSI division. I will present to you today the student perspective on KAUST, how it is like to live here, what it's like to study here. So I'll start with the first experience of how did I first learn about this place. So when I was in the third year of the Bachelor, a friend of mine showed me an ad for the camp in Saudi Arabia, photonics summer camp, as Rosemary mentioned. At first, it was quite baffling. Like, I didn't think about studying in Saudi Arabia at all before, of course. And I also spoke English quite badly, so I wasn't really sure about my abilities to go there. But I decided to go anyway because it was an adventure for like a month in the summer. Like, what could go wrong, right? I also got into a completely new topic for me, which was atmospheric turbulence modeling. Actually, the first time I learned that I'm admitted to photonics summer camp, I didn't get the official letter. I instead got the letter from the professor, which said, Dmitry, read those papers, you'll work on them. Again, at this time, I wasn't really good in English, so everything was quite stressful. But when I arrived to photonics summer camp, it turned out that people are awesome. I got lots of new friends. We had lots of fun. I got acquainted with the awesome research group I now study in, CTL here, and the topic was great. So this is us here at the trip to desert or something. And I think 4 or 5 people from this photograph ended up in KAUST studying for PhD and masters. After photonics summer camp, I actually stayed for an extra month as a Vsrp because professor proposed me to continue my project. Yeah, so after that, I got back home and I got really desperate to come to study at KAUST for masters because the program was world class, the boss was awesome, the group was awesome, facilities are great. So I studied twice as hard to improve my chances to get there. And I prepared for IELTS to pass the threshold for about 2-3 months of intense studying for English. My English got better, and I did the admission process, of course, did all that Rosemary mentioned, reference letters, CV, statement of purpose. The most stressful thing for me was academic interview, because at academic interview, they ask you quite basic questions, but these questions are really in-depth. They really test the full understanding of the material there. And the problem is, in my university, I studied before, St. Petersburg State University. All these things we studied at the first and second year of our program. So I needed to refresh everything in my mind. But turned out great. I got the offer and went to study at KAUST. When I arrived, the reality was actually not as I imagined it, because I imagined that I will come from a PhD program and immediately start research. But first year was quite tough, because the program, education program here is quite strong, and the courses were hard, I would say. They were very demanding. First year, I almost didn't do any research, and I only did courses. It took a lot of time, but it made me understand a lot of things that I now use in my research, so it wasn't for nothing. I would say that the education here is strongly area specific, so you will get strong area specific knowledge that you might not get in other places. For example, for me, I do communication engineering, and our professors are really top class in their field. Things like wireless communication, basics of Wi-Fi, 4G, 5G, all these things are really explained in depth, and it's all very cool. Also, the other thing is that research here, education here is research oriented. It's not uncommon for students to publish papers after doing a project for the PhD course. So everything here tied to the research, and research is, as I understand it, above all. So after MS, I did the thesis defense and transitioned towards PhD. Right now I'm doing a PhD. It's a lot less stressful for me, because the deadlines are not that frequent, right? You don't need to submit the assignment every day or every week. Now, a couple of words about my research, just so you understand where I'm coming from. So, our lab, partly, I work on the thing called FSO, Free Space Optics. It's a technology that can offer a solution to the digital divide problem. As you can see on the map, this is a map of internet availability at different countries. As you can see, Asia, India, and Africa, they are not really well connected to the internet. And it's not because of some malice, it's just that for providers, it's not financially viable to put a base station for a 4G or lay a fiber there. FSO provides a solution to this problem. It tries to create a technology that will be financially feasible in these conditions. But it has some problems. One of the problems I study is the atmospheric turbulence. When the beam propagates through the air, it gets distorted by the refractive index modulations, and so this is what happens. This is the beam, structured light beam. This is particularly Laguerre-Gaussian mode. It goes through the phase screens, and this is what you see at the receiver. So this is a modeling we do here. This particularly is from my master thesis. What I'm doing right now is also working on this, but I'm trying to speed up the simulations with the machine learning and generative adversarial networks. Yep, so now to the, I think, most interesting for you slide from the presentation, my personal experience of what are pros and cons of living and studying KAUST. So pros are, first, of course, flexible scientific workflow. You'll be encouraged to do interdisciplinary science. You will be encouraged to do collaborations and joint projects. A lot of people here have co-advisors. For example, I myself have two advisors, one on the practical side of the optical communication, one on the theoretical side. Secondly, the equipment and facilities both for science and for living are awesome. For science, we have, as Rosemary mentioned, we have clean room, we have Shaheen, the supercomputer, and all the labs are equipped wonderfully, world class. For recreational, we have 2 pools, we have 3 gyms, we have tennis courts, squash courts, volleyball courts, you name it. You pretty much get you get everything. And most of the things are free of charge to use. Stipend, of course, covers all the bases, and you really can focus on science and career fully without really thinking about the money. And finally, which is, I think, underrated, the experience you get from encountering people from different cultures, it's really something else. You get a network of friends all over the world when you graduate. Now to cons. First of all, it's a graduate school fully. We don't have bachelor, so nobody will really push you. Your education is your responsibility, and if you will not push yourself, results may not be as you wish, right? But I think like this, it should be in every graduate school. Secondly, this was a big one for me. No music concerts. I love to go to a hardcore music concerts, rock, metal, hip hop, whatever. Basically hardcore music. There is no such thing in Saudi Arabia, or at least I'm not aware of it. Then the food is not the same. I try to cook for myself. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And finally, it's probably related to any kind of university abroad, but you will probably miss home. I do sometimes, and many other people also do. Yep. So this is pretty much it. I will try not to bore you. So some concluding points and takeaway things I want you to remember. First of all, KAUST is a highly diverse international environment. We do have many communities, and for example, as I mentioned here, relevant for me, Russian-speaking community, ex-USSR, all these things. It's plus or minus 100 people large, and I think more even right now, but I'm not sure. I don't know all of the people even because it's just too many. Secondly, KAUST is a great place to study and build your career. If this is what you want, this is a place for you. Here you really can focus on science and career and to not think about anything else. And finally, it's a wonderful place to create an international network of friends and colleagues. So this is pretty much it, I think. So connect with me or any other ambassadors on Unibody through TSEMSE website. There should be some kind of a button like talk to a student. You can press it and chat with us. We're there and we can answer your questions or just contact us however you like. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dimitri. I think that was the end of our presentation. So, Luke, I think we're ready for a Q&A if we want to moderate that.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Rosemary. We will lead into the Q&A. And with that also, I would like to welcome another presenter that we have with us, Aigars. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining the Q&A. Great. So let's start off with some questions that we received already. Just to also emphasize to the audience, you can write your questions. So for the live audience, we can answer them right now. For the people watching the recording, you can still write questions. So just to mention that. However, of course, we have to come back to those later. Okay, quick question from Joe. I see Rosemary already gave some answer, but maybe it can be interesting for people who have a similar situation. Joe has a master in petroleum engineering, and yeah, basically it was about coding and machine learning. He'd like to know if he can apply for the PhD in computer science at KAUST. Can you, Rosemary or Aigars, say something about this?
Yeah, I'll probably take this one. So it really depends on what is your background knowledge in the courses necessary for studying computer science. I presume in your case that would be either in master's or the PhD level. So that means that you would really have to have appropriate level so that you can jump into the computer classes, whether master degree level or the PhD level. Yeah, this is depending on which classes you are studying. You also should have a very strong background in mathematics, because this is very often the stumbling stone for the new students here. I don't know if I answered that question.
I think so. Rosemary, do you want to add something?
No, I think that sounds. The only thing I would say is that if you are applying for say a PhD in computer science and you don't have an academic background in computer science, you're going to be competing against other students that do have a background in CS. So it's not always essential that you have to have the same background in what you're applying for, but you should really have a good grasp of the subjects that are going to be covered through either the master's or the PhD program.
Yeah, maybe to add to that, once you are at the level of doing your PhD studies, then at that point you pretty well know what do you want to do for your PhD and what is really interesting for you, where you would really like to specialize. And the way it works in the academic world is that the PhD candidate finds for himself the supervisor, the scholar with whom he wants to study or she wants to study. It doesn't really matter so much whether it is this country or that country or this university or that university, because in the academic and scholarly world, it is that you have like certain field of science, and then you have those strong people who are here, here, and here. And then you really find, sorry, I have to put that on. Yeah, so you really have to find the person with whom you want to study. And then you approach this person, go into touch and say, look, you are doing those great things, and I would like to do with you this and that and that. And once you have already established a communication and some relationship with this potential future supervisor, if you then submit your application, even if your background is in a somewhat different field, but you decided, okay, now I want to switch to machine learning and computer science, then this will become entirely possible, because once your application will come in, then your future supervisor will already know that this application is there, and he will go and tell, look, I want to have this student, if he or she otherwise qualifies, has good enough grades, and has the necessary background courses, I want to have this student. So it is not entirely so that you would have to compete against, you know, hardcore computer scientists who are doing just the computer science. It is in that way if you are not going this channel via the supervisor. But as you probably saw somewhere in Rosemary's presentation, there is this condition that you have to find a sponsor. And sponsor really means that you sponsor is not the one who is paying you money. University will be paying you the stipend. But sponsor is your future supervisor, who will be accepting you into his or her research group. So that's why it is really, if you want to be successful applying to KAUST, you have to be proactive and you have to reach out to your future supervisor. And here I would like actually to show you how you could look for potential supervisors on our website. Let me see if I remember that correctly, how we were doing that. So Luke, if you give me some little bit of guidance.
Sure. So click at the bottom. You want to share the website. So you
yes,
open
exactly.
it on your side and then click share at the bottom and share screen.
Okay, I should open the website first. Okay.
Yes, please.
I say, okay, I put it in a new window. And then I say share and share screen, and I want to share a window, and I want to share this one and share. Okay, good. So you see it now.
Yes.
So this is SEMSI website. It is actually quite up to date. We have the news pieces which are telling about what has been happening quite recently in the division. You have the list of the events, so you can get an impression how active we are in the division in that respect, with seminars and workshops, the latest news, and then you have the academic programs. Depending on in which you want to study, you can just click on any of them and look what they are doing. We have research centers and initiatives. Again, you can click on them and see what they are doing. You have some student videos, student stories. And also you can actually chat with our students. There is this interactive window, so you can just click on it and you can chat to a specific living person, living student who is here, in this case, Rafael from Portugal. He studies statistics. Yeah. So you can ask questions directly, not really to somebody like me who is representing the division on an official level, but you can ask directly a student, is it a good idea that I come, or is it a crap? And the student will answer to you. Then you can navigate, for example, by programs. There is also the navigation menu here. You can go and look, okay, I want to see, for example, computer science, since there was a question about it. And then you can see, okay, what are the research groups? Then you see the different research groups, what they are doing. I don't know, for example, take Professor Hohendorf, who is doing bioinformatics. And then see what different things are being done in his group. Or you can, for example, let's go back to the divisional website. You can look by people. You have here this menu item, people. You can click on professors. And then you have the possibility to search. I mean, if you have know already the name of the professor, fine, then issues are resolved. But for example, imagine you want to search for, there was a question about machine learning. Machine learning. Let's see whether we have any professors doing machine learning. And yes, indeed, you have quite a few professors who are doing machine learning at KAUST. And you can go and check out the profile of each one of them. Take, for example, Marco Canini. Look what he's doing. There is his education, career. You know where he's coming from, where he was educated. You can go to his group website. All the links are here. And this way you can get an impression about a specific topic, what research is actually out there, what is happening at KAUST. You can pick your favorite professors, and then you just write them a message. And so I think I can stop sharing now. So, and when you write to them, it's not that like there are these dear professor messages that sometimes students are sending massively to a large number of students. Believe me, no professor is ever opening a message which starts with dear professor. You really have to be very clear what you indicate in the subject line, so that the professor would actually get interested. When you start your message, you ask, dear Professor so-and-so, by the professor's name, and not really dear generic professor, because I say people are busy, they receive a lot of emails, and they don't have time to read anything generic. And then, if in the first lines of the message, you manage to capture the professor's attention, then you are in a conversation. If you start writing something very generic, very likely professor will not read the message to the end and will close it and forget about it. So it's really very clearly you should indicate in the subject line, you are interested, PhD studies in this topic in your group. Can I? Yeah, of course you make it shorter. And then when you start with your first sentence. It could be, for example, I read your studies about that, and I'm interested in this and this topic, and could I study on this, do my PhD on this and this topic with you? And once you have said very clearly what are you after, then it is time that you tell something about yourself. And then you can hope that the professor will actually get interested and get back to you, and you'll get into conversation, and eventually you will have your sponsor. So this is the more productive way how this would work, besides submitting a very generic application, and those generic applications then end up in a pile in front of the professor's committee, and then they will be looking, is this interesting, is this not interesting, who wants to be the supervisor? Then the chances are not as good. If you are very specific, if you find the professor, if you get into conversation with the professor, if you show your genuine interest, and if your credentials are good, then your success chances are also very good, very high.
Okay. Okay. Yes, thank you very much. That was, I think, a very comprehensive answer, but also already a lot of information given. So very useful information on how to apply and how to go about this, of course. So thank you very much, Igars. Question that just want to make sure that it's clear, because I think a lot of students are curious and interested in this. A question from Adra is, does the scholarship cover living expenses and accommodation?
Rosemary, would you like to take this?
Yeah, sure, I can answer that. I mean, every student receives the Kaust Fellowship. You don't need to apply separately for the scholarship. If you are successful in getting admission, then you will be given the scholarship. And the scholarship is really to spend on your living costs. So you can use that for things like food, travel, those kind of expenses. But as well as that, you receive free accommodation. If you are coming alone to the university campus, your accommodation is provided free of charge. And if you are coming with a family, I believe there is a subsidy, an extra subsidy you may have to pay to bring your, for example, your partner and your children. But the scholarship should well cover you for your living expenses whilst you're at KAUST. Yeah.
Dmitry, maybe you would like to interject and tell from your perspective as a student, how is the KAUST scholarship? Is it sufficient? Is it good? Is it great? What can you tell to other students?
I have no objections. It's great. Like like for me at least, I don't spend much. So for me, it's a lot more than I need really. So yeah, it covers everything you may ask for.
From what I know from quite many students, when they come here, they actually make savings, and they travel quite a bit and see the world. Of course, now it is a little bit difficult because of COVID, but under normal conditions, I mean, I think our students do not miss out on the material side.
Great, that is very good to hear. And I'm sure the audience is happy to hear that as well. Great. We're going to the next question. There was a question from Abos asking, I'm currently a third-year bachelor student in computer science. When should I apply for a master or even a master PhD?
Yeah, assuming that you have a 3 years bachelor program, I mean, in different countries, this may differ slightly. Sometimes these may be 4 years, but assuming that this is the last year, according to the Lisbon scheme, then you should be applying actually this fall. There will be application deadlines, I think, in something like beginning or mid-December, then early January. So I would suggest the earlier apply, better by the first possible deadline. There will be deadline, I think one is sometime in October, but this is for beginning in the spring semester, and you will have not yet finished by that time your bachelor degree. You would have to be here and start your master studies at KAUST in January. And that would not be feasible. I presume you'll be finishing sometime May, June, and this is the time when you will be getting your diploma. So you should be applying for starting your studies in the fall semester. The fall semester usually begins sometime mid-August or second half of August, depending on the year. So in any case, please watch out on our website. There will be announcements about the application deadlines for the 2022 fall semester. And please apply to those deadlines. As I said, I think there will be the first one sometime in early October or mid-October.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, master's students and MS PhD students will only begin in the fall semester. The spring semester is only for PhD students. So if you are looking at applying for either the MS or the MS PhD combined degree, then you should be looking at submitting an application in, as Igar says, in October, with really the latest deadline being around January. The January before the year you want, sorry, the October the year before you want to apply.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, very good. We
Yeah,
have
maybe
another
one
question.
more little addition here.
Sure.
The master's only program is only for students from within this country. If you are coming from abroad, then master only studies are not possible. You should be applying to the master plus PhD program.
Okay, thank you very much. As I mentioned, he's on a 4 years program, so I hope that was clear for you as well then. Question from Youssef. Youssef is asking about the student life. So you mentioned something about that, Dimitri. So this is for you, I guess. That is there also good networking and some time off for activities?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it depends on you really. So, of course, there are opportunities for this, but whether or not you will choose to focus on studies and writing papers or on networking, it's up to you. So we have different conferences in the campus all over the year. I think we'll have 6G conference soon enough. We had the conference for the machine learning, we had STAT conferences. So if we're talking about scientific networking, if we're talking about just meeting people, yeah, there are a lot of different organizations like musicians, how's it called? Basically different interest groups. People are going to the mountains to ride bicycles, people are going out to snorkeling, people are doing all sorts of stuff. So yeah, ton of activities there.
Great, good to hear. Thank you, Dimitri. I hope that gave a good idea to you and all others as well who are interested to go. The last questions. We have a couple minutes more for questions, but we have a question from Madi. Madi is asking about the application, specifically about the passport with a validity date for September, but maybe also with that linked to the visa process, just to emphasize a bit about some of the terms. I see, Rosemary, you're already answering part of it. Maybe it's good to take that public for the audience, so to say. So just to make sure some pointers around the visa process and possibly passport procedures.
Sure. I mean, we have an onboarding and relocation office that will actually help you with the visa process completely. So you don't need to apply for your own visa. I believe the onboarding office will help you with this. If you are submitting an application to begin in the fall, I would say try and submit the application sometime between October and December. And then you can submit that with your current passport. And whilst the application is under review by the admissions office and the faculty, you can, during that time, be renewing your passport so that if you are offered admission, you'll be ready to provide them with the updated passport, so that can be linked to your visa, and you can arrive at KAUST on time.
Okay, great. Thank you for that answer, Rosemary. And I hope that is clear for everybody. Those are the questions I've received so far. So I hope this gave already a good idea. We do have time for a last question. If someone still has a question, this is your moment. Take advantage, because we have the admission and recruitment specialists here with us, as well as Dimitri, of course, the student.
I'll also say that if you want to ask any follow-up questions, you can email semsi.ag recruitment@kaust.edu.sa. I'll put that in the chat somehow. Can we do that, Luke? So if you do have any follow-up questions, you can email us directly.
Link. So I will actually. Could you repeat the email, please?
SEMSI.
Yeah.
.recruitment.
Yes.
@kaust.edu.sa.
Okay. So I'm actually sending it on the screen right now. You will see a the email, but also actually a link to the SEMSI website.
It's incomplete. SEMSI.
With an E at the end of SEMSI.
CEMSE. SEMSI.recruitment.
Okay. There's the E as well. Okay, so please add the E, SEMSI. I will retype it, but just to make sure. I don't think there's any other questions that you mean to.
There is about remote or offline internship. So yeah, Rosemary already answered. There is this email through which you should apply for any kind of internship.
Yeah, if you're interested in doing the remote internship or the offline internship, you can email the internship office here in the SEMSI division, and we will explain the process to you about how to find a potential group and what the process is to come for one of those.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you for answering that. And last but not least, also just to mention for anyone watching the recording, I know these days a lot of people do, instead of being here live, and of course with all the time zones and having people from different countries joining, that is possible. You can write your questions still, so take advantage. And we are, well, the KAUST staff can come back to you afterwards, likely by email, as they would have your details. So take advantage of that. And if there are no further questions, I'd like to slowly then round off this session. Yeah, already from my side,
there is a
everyone.
short question which I could answer actually up front.
Sure.
There is a question about specialization in mechanics.
Yes.
And whether it should be applied mathematics or mechanical engineering. It really depends on what you want to do. If you really want to go into the hardcore engineering, then it would be mechanical engineering program with the PSC division. If you want to go into the computational part, like, for example, I don't know, do some aerodynamic studies or things like that, and do it like by modeling, then applied mathematics is perhaps the better program. For example, we have Professor Parzani, who is collaborating with McLaren, the Formula One's racing team, and he is actually doing some simulations that help them to improve the aerodynamics of their vehicles. So, I mean, it really depends. You have to study what a mechanical engineering program offers and what applied mathematics program offers, and then choose one which fits your needs.
Perfect. Great. I hope that answers your question, and also for the others to hear that as well. So great. Well, I see already thumbs up, so that's good to see. Thanks everyone for your feedback. Do not forget to submit the poll. I see a lot of people already did, but if you haven't, you can still do so. And as mentioned, we will now round off the session. Briefly to mention, yeah, thank you, especially to the presenters for being available, Rosemary, Igars, and Dimitri, of course, as well. Thank you all for your time and your dedication to making, answering the questions and explaining the program. I hope that was very useful. I think it was. There was a lot of useful information I heard. So, and seeing by the questions and the interaction, the audience enjoyed it. And with that, last word maybe over to you, Igars, before we sign off, and have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you really very much for participating and for your interest in KAUST. Please consider applying. Please also keep in mind that we are really merit-based and very competitive. So it might be tough to get in, but if you get in, then I believe you will never regret that in your life.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.